Welcome to EPI STEM podcast. This EPI STEM podcast is brought to you from the National Centre of STEM Education at the School of Education in the University of Limerick. I'm your host, Geraldine Simmie, and I'm the Professor of STEM Education here at the Centre and the Director of EPI STEM. And my co-host,
Michelle Starr, and I am the Research Liaison Officer in EPI STEM.
welcome back everybody to the new year. I know we're in the middle of February, but we're actually starting our first podcast of 2026 for the new spring semester here at the University of Limerick. And we're delighted to have a very special guest with us today, Professor JJ Leahy. JJ is the head of the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Sciences here at the University of Limerick. Both Michelle and myself have a great fondness for chemistry. We started out in that space ourselves, and so we want to welcome you as our very special guest.
Welcome, JJ.
I'm delighted to be here.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, tell us something about yourself maybe first, and we'll get into the research and all that later.
So I'm the head of the Department of Chemical Sciences. We are an interesting department because even though we call ourselves Chemical Sciences, it includes industrial chemistry, industrial biochemistry, environmental science and chemical engineering. So we're quite an unusual constituency, but it serves us well, particularly in terms of how we apply ourselves to particular research questions.
Yeah.
And an example would be myself. So I apply myself to use chemistry and chemical technology to solve primarily problems associated with waste. And again, if I could say in particular, how to remove materials from the waste category and recycle them. Even though I've been working on this for the last 30 years, within the last 2 or 3 years, the European Commission has finally caught up with me, and they now have an...
You were definitely ahead of the curve.
You were, yeah.
Well, I think not just me. A number of us were working on this in this space, but they've now given us a vocabulary to describe what we do. Right. So we work as part of the circular economy. So there's a large push within the EU at the moment, particularly with regard to what they consider to be critical raw materials, that these do not go into waste sites, either incineration or landfill sites, but that we recycle critical raw materials.
Yes.
And there are some key examples of this. One would be several would be in agriculture, because agricultural waste and also human waste is rich in some critical raw materials. A good example would be phosphorus. Mm-hmm. So phosphorus is essential for life. Every cell in our body undergoes what we call the ADP-ATP cycle. Yes. So phosphorus is in every cell of our body. And we take in phosphorus in the form of food, but by and large, our bodies do not only use a fraction of that phosphorus. So most of the phosphorus, which is a critical nutrient that we eat, leaves the body as waste.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And then it ends up in wastewater treatment plants. And because there are limits on the discharge of phosphorus into rivers, it's accumulated in the sludge.
Yes.
So then the question is, how can we recover phosphorus from sewage sludge and make it compatible, again, to use it into fertilizers?
Yes.
Because then you're closing the cycle.
You are. There's your circular economy.
There's your circular economy. So I work primarily in the space of how do we recover those nutrients.
That's very interesting, very interesting. And tell me, when you're talking about industrial and all the different aspects of chemistry all falling in there, you're talking about people then working together in teams that are interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary, and they've got to be very well able to actually listen and work together. And give me an idea of the scale of your department as well in this space.
So we have people who work on legislation and regulation, for instance, because that's key to understanding the pathways that we can undertake in order to solve these problems. Yeah. Because key to what we do is that we don't make it worse.
That's it. The governance is important.
The governance is important.
It is.
Because I can come up with the perfect technical chemical solution, but what I'm producing could be worse than what I'm starting with.
Yeah.
So so there are regulatory constraints. So we've people in the department who work in regulatory affairs. We've people then, such as me, who work on maybe some of the fundamentals of the chemistry. And then we've other people who are chemical engineers who look at how we scale this up. What are the limitations or the bottlenecks in terms of scaling some of these processes?
Wow.
So we work really as a pretty integrated team.
And about how many of you are there roughly? What kind of size department or team are you?
So our department, within our department, we have 28 faculty. We have 109 PhD students, and we have 38 postdoctoral researchers.
Wow.
Working in this space.
Right.
But we also work across faculty.
Yes.
Because some of the problems we encounter, we need to understand. Some of the limitations will be technical, but some could be economic. And a key part of what we do is education. Yeah. So I collaborate on a couple of EU projects with a colleague from education because for a lot of the initiatives that the European Commission wants to implement, the human factor is most important.
It is.
If I could give an example, I worked in the area of biofuels for a good number of years. And the EU operates research funding in 5-year cycles. We call them horizons.
Yeah.
And in 2014, 2012 to 2014, I was part of a panel that was planning for what became Horizon 2020. And we had quite a significant component of the research funding was going to biofuels. When the research calls eventually came out, biofuels was significantly reduced and electrification had increased. And I went to Brussels and I complained, as I do, and I started to point out all of the failings, that maybe electrification isn't as environmentally friendly as people maintain it is.
Yeah.
But the response I got, and it was perfectly correct, that this is a bit like a Munster rugby fan putting on a Leinster jersey. Once you drive around in your electric vehicle, you will begin to change other parts of your life. So you will start to do other things as well.
You will, yeah.
And so in and of itself, it may not be the answer.
Yeah.
But because a lot of the solutions that I implement are no good unless there's buy-in.
That's it. The mindset has to change.
And
that's the hard bit. That's the seduction piece. You got to win people. You got to bring them on board. The human factor. We work with this all the time because we kind of think, I suppose, teachers and teacher education and STEM education, we kind of see the bird doesn't fly on one wing. So we need the knowledge, but we need the ethics, the philosophy, the buy-in. We need all of that. Well, it's a big package, and I can hear you having it from working within the governance and trying to get that mindset of being creative within and looking at everything with another eye.
Exactly.
Looking at everything that we do, that we're throwing out and tossing away, and looking at it differently.
And a key part of that is education, because you can have willingness, and then people can become frustrated because they want to do the right thing, but the tools aren't there to enable them to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So an example of my collaboration currently with someone from the School of Education is on an EU project called Follow. And Follow is one of 2 projects funded by the Commission on food loss and food waste. So the question is, what is the difference?
Yeah, what is the difference?
And this is a challenge for us because we need clear definitions. The same as at home, I sometimes have difficulty. If I have more than one recycling bin, is my plastic soft? Is it semi-soft? Is it hard? People want to do the right thing, but we have to provide them with clear definitions. So a lot of what we've been doing on this project is to provide clear definition, so people understand what food loss is, and that term primarily concerns primary food producers and primary food processors.
And we never think of it, loss being at that stage. We think of it in the household, like, because we're always told we waste food, and but you're talking about the primary stage. It's very interesting.
That's the low-hanging fruit.
It is, yeah, it is.
And that has implications for everything that we do.
And is that across the board, JJ? Is that with dairy, vegetables?
Vegetables, and that's across the board. So a question you might ask is, well, where do you start? And for us, and it might sound very academic, but it took us almost 18 months to come to a definition that everyone could buy into, because and the definition we have is ready for harvest. So what does that mean? If I'm a potato farmer in Spain, ready to harvest may not be when the first potato is ready, because you're only going to go into the field once.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that when you go in, some of the potatoes may be over mature, some will be under mature. The same could be true of apples. You know, you go into the orchard, if you're doing this industrially, and for an animal, if you're a farmer and you're fattening a beef animal, if you have, because there are standards called Europe for defining the quality of the meat, there could be a case that some farmers may overfatten their animal because they're free grass.
Yeah.
So ready to be harvested is a really good definition. And because prior to that, a lot of the loss that could occur may be environmental. Animals could die. They could pick up a disease. If you may have insufficient water to grow your potatoes, insufficient sunshine to ripen your apples. So that's outside of the control of the actor, as we call them, you know, the primary producer.
And of course, this is very important for Ireland because, I mean, with our climate and everything, and with all our agricultural industry, and with our, I suppose, all our chemical industry and agricultural industry, I mean, the work you're doing is really at the heart of not only our economic well-being and thriving, but I suppose sustainability, social, environment. It hits all the boxes, and particularly that environmental care. So we have to learn how to look after clean water and our food waste, and we've got to relearn really a lot about all of this. Keep learning. It's a lifelong learning journey for all of us, and to keep changing our mindset around it so that we can do it better. Yeah. What is your thoughts, I suppose, about the fact that a lot of maybe Europe is trying to do their best, but maybe the global world now, without mentioning any names, is hitting hard at all of this? Will we get through this bit of a hiccup?
I think we will, because I think there is enough of momentum and goodwill built up behind it at this stage. And I can even see it in the US that in some cases the states are going to move ahead of the federal government.
They will.
And
they will.
So the clock is not going to
be turned. The clock won't. And then before we finish, just to ask you, I suppose, how do we interest young people in school, in chemistry as a fantastic profession, as a way, you know, to come in and do PhDs with us, do masters with us, get into this fantastic area? Because really what I'm hearing you talking about is, you know, the transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary spaces, the excitement of that, because it means like no one person brings the genius to the table.
Yeah, and it touches every aspect of life, what you were talking about.
It does.
100%. So if you look at our department, we have people looking at new battery materials, but they will need to collaborate with engineers in order to implement those in cars and vehicles. We've people looking at new solar. We've people looking at new pharmaceutical, how you formulate drugs for the future. So older people, such as me, if I'm taking more than one medicine a day, can I formulate the 2 active ingredients into a single tablet? Yeah. Because that prevents errors. Yes. And chemistry is a tool. It's an enabling tool for solving problems. That's the excitement of chemistry. If I want to develop a new hair colorant for my hair, in my case, too late. You know, nevertheless, that's chemistry. It's the chemistry of color. And so to me, the excitement of chemistry is that it allows us to solve problems that cannot be solved without this just incredible.
And I
tool.
know you do a lot of work with schools, and schools come and visit your fantastic periodic table, that you have an absolutely beautiful interactive periodic table outside the door, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I know EPI STEM, we were involved in being where our stamp and logo is there as part of it. But
and we welcome anyone to come and see it,
to come and see
fantastic.
it.
it tells you a history, even of things as simple as money.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Irish 2p, when we had our own punts,
Yes.
we call them they're copper plated. The original pennies were pure copper, but by the time the punt was the currency of the day, the weight of the copper in a 2p coin exceeded the value, the monetary value
Of the coin itself.
So the coin itself is iron, but it has been dipped, so it's electroplated with copper. So even little stories like that. We have spark plugs from the 1950s and 60s, and they used polonium, which is a radioactive material.
Wow.
Because it provided a perfect spark.
Of course it did. It gave you a fine spark, is right.
I mean, we've touched on so many subjects, and I mean, I'd love to ask more about your ready to harvest, and maybe you'll come back another time.
Come back.
But I want to ask you just before, and especially with the phosphorus, ways of where that could be within the system, all of the ecosystem and the human system. But I just want to ask you very briefly, I suppose, out of self-interest, do you think we'll ever have a substitute, like a biofuel, like, there was talk years and years ago, and I think you did a lot of research in this, I remember before everyone else, is about using cooking oil as a fuel. Well, could I see that now running my cooker at home?
For something like your cooker, very, very easily. So, and waste cooking oil in particular, because there are considerable quantities of that. And even currently in Ireland, a lot of the biodiesel, so if you filled your car this morning with diesel, it will say B7 on the pump.
Yeah.
And a lot of that says 7% biodiesel. Quite a significant proportion of that nowadays is actually made from waste cooking oil. So they're collecting the oil from catering institutions, and they're converting it into what we call methyl esters, and that is coming back into the system. But now it's coming back into the system as a bio.
So diesel is getting cleaner.
Diesel is getting cleaner.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know that.
I think once we move beyond B7 and certainly B10, then it will require some engine modification.
Yeah.
Because the properties of biodiesel differ from those of mineral diesel.
Yeah.
So we can probably move to a B10 without significant engine modification, but beyond that, we will need to start tweaking the engines.
And that's when your policies come in, and that's when you get governments to lobby them. Now we need the car manufacturers to please fit in with this, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah, lovely.
Wow, it's so interesting, isn't
Fabulously interesting. I suppose we're coming to the end. Have we left out anything? Is there anything additional you want to say?
No, not at all. I'm just delighted for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Anything which interests people in chemistry.
It's very interesting. And we've been talking here to Professor JJ Leahy this morning. And
we'll definitely have you back.
We'll definitely have you back, definitely, to continue this conversation. So now we'll be played out today by Caoimhe Doherty. Caoimhe is from Limerick. She's a third-year student in the BA in World Music in the Irish World Academy of Music and Dance here at the University of Limerick. And Caoimhe today is going to play a jig. It's been written by Junior Crehan, who's well known in the actual space of the Irish music. And this jig is called Misty Covered Mountain.